Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Future Zoologist Academy. Today we'll be exploring one of the largest species of salamanders native to Europe, and this salamander is very easily recognizable because of its bright yellow warning colors. Today we're learning all about fire salamanders. Let's get into it. Fire salamanders are a species of salamander native to Europe. There are a few different species called fire salamanders, but today we're going to focus on the common fire salamander. And there are a couple different subspecies that each have their own unique adaptations and traits, but scientists are still trying to work this out. Fire salamanders are most commonly found in forest ecosystems, especially in hilly areas. Forests make a great home for fire salamanders because they use all that fallen leaf litter as great hiding places. And they're typically found near fresh water, typically pretty close to somewhere like a pond or a stream, which is very important for their reproduction. As we said before, fire salamanders are one of the largest salamander species native to Europe. They commonly grow between 6 and 8 inches in length, but some individuals can reach upwards of 1 foot in length. And they're pretty easily recognizable because of their bright yellow and black colorations. Some individuals seem to have more of a reddish or orangey color to them in place of the yellow. Even though they're pretty easily recognizable, most people don't usually see fire salamanders because they are nocturnal. They are most active at nighttime, though they do tend to take advantage of rainy days when they can be active as well. They spend most days usually hiding, sheltered somewhere like a fallen log, an old rodent burrow, hiding underneath leaf litter, or even tucked in cracks and crevices between rocks or in the hard ground. And then at nighttime, when they're most active, they go out exploring around their territory, looking for food, and then they return oftentimes to the same spot to rest for the daytime. Speaking of looking for food, let's talk a little bit about a fire salamander's diet. Fire salamanders are carnivores, they are meat eaters, and they eat a wide variety of small animals, especially things like insects and arachnids, things like spiders. But they also eat millipedes and centipedes, they eat a lot of worms and slugs, and they'll even eat other amphibians like frogs and newts. When they find their food, they use special teeth on the roof of their mouth to bite down, to grip onto their prey, but they don't usually chew their food. They usually swallow it whole, and like frogs, they can use their eyes to squish their prey down their throat, making it a little bit easier for them to swallow their food. In ancient times, fire salamanders were actually thought to be born from fire. And this myth probably coming from the fact that fire salamanders like to hang out in logs, and when people would use the logs to create fire, the salamanders would flee, making them look like they were born from the fire. And today we know that that's not true, but the name fire salamander does do a great job describing their bright, fiery colors. The fire salamander's yellow and black coloration serves as a warning to potential predators. And actually, humans use the same combination of colors to warn each other when there's potential danger as well. But fire salamanders have a really good reason to be warning predators. They are poisonous. Fire salamanders secrete or ooze out a poison through their skin. It's even been observed that sometimes they can spray the toxins as well. The toxins, or the poisons, are produced by glands, mostly located by the fire salamander's head and along grooves going down their back. But scientists have learned that they don't actually seem to produce the poison until they become adults. The fire salamander's toxins are not especially harmful to humans. They're much more effective on potential predators. But that being said, they do still have predators. Some species of snakes, Hedgehogs and some birds, like crows, commonly prey on fire salamanders. The fire salamander skin is not just useful for protection, it has a couple other jobs too. It can be used for breathing and for drinking water. Because like most amphibians, fire salamanders have permeable skin, meaning that molecules like oxygen and water can pass through it. But for this to work, most amphibians have to have moist skin. And that's why most amphibians live in moist or rainy ecosystems. Something else fire salamanders have in common with most other amphibians is they go through metamorphosis. Metamorphosis occurs when an animal goes through distinct phases during its life cycle where it looks different and acts different in each phase. And most animals that go through metamorphosis cannot reproduce until they enter their final adult phase. Now, even though fire salamanders do go through metamorphosis, there's something about their life cycle that makes them a little bit different than most other salamanders. So let's start with a typical life cycle for most other salamanders. Most salamanders breed on land, and the eggs partially develop inside of the female, and then she deposits her eggs into water, usually to a pond or some other kind of slow-moving protected body of water. Eventually, those eggs hatch in the water, and a larval salamander, a baby salamander, is born. And over the next couple months, they spend their life in water. They breathe with feathery gills, they feed on small aquatic organisms, and then eventually they complete their metamorphosis, they absorb their gills, and they move up onto land, and they start their life as an adult salamander. Here's where things get a little strange for the fire salamanders, because most fire salamander eggs hatch at the exact moment of birth. And it seems as though fire salamanders are giving birth to live offspring because they never actually deposit their egg into water the way most other salamanders do. They do give birth, typically, to a larval salamander, breathing with gills, living in water, but exactly how developed the larva is at birth varies a lot between individual fire salamanders. Some fire salamanders are born very undeveloped and spend quite a lot of time in water in their larval phase before they become adults, whereas others are born much more developed, much closer to their adult phase. And this has been very confusing for scientists because not only do we see these differences between different subspecies living in different places, but we also see them within the same subspecies from individuals living in the same area. Now, it's definitely worth us saying that scientists are working very hard to try to get a better understanding of a fire salamander's life cycle, and there's a lot of different information between different sources online. As we continue to learn more information about fire salamanders, their life cycle might become more clear to us, but for now, there's still a lot left for us to learn. Regardless of how different their life cycle is, fire salamanders do still go through metamorphosis and still have some of the benefits that metamorphosis creates. Animals who go through metamorphosis avoid competition even with their same species because the adults live in a different place, live up on land, and are eating different food than larval salamanders, so they're not competing with each other for space or food. Fire salamanders are a pretty long-lived salamander. In the wild, they commonly live up to about 20 years, and in captivity, they can live even longer. There was even an individual who lived for 50 years in captivity. Even though fire salamanders are very long-lived, they are classified as vulnerable by the IUCN, meaning that their species does face many threats. We're worried that the fire salamanders could go extinct in the future if we don't start putting some conservation actions in place. Some of their main threats are habitat loss. The forest home that they rely on is being destroyed. There's also a deadly fungus that's affecting amphibians all around the world that is also harming fire salamanders. Because of their permeable skin, they're very sensitive to this fungus. They're also very sensitive to pollution, like chemicals in the environment, that they can also absorb into their skin. If you don't live where fire salamanders live, it can be kind of hard to protect them. You can make donations to some of the organizations who are working to study fire salamanders and protect their habitat. But you can also work to protect your native amphibians in many different ways. One of the best ways to reduce pollution in the environment that can be very harmful for amphibians is actually to eat organic food. Organic food is grown without using harmful chemicals like pesticides or herbicides. Those chemicals often run off into the environment and can harm amphibians. When we buy organic food and eat organic food, we are in turn reducing pollution in the environment and helping to protect amphibians. All right, you guys, thank you so very much for joining me to learn about fire salamanders and all of their mysterious traits. If you would like to learn even more, if you'd like to do quizzes, activities, projects, please be sure to visit that link below, and I can't wait to see you at our next lesson. Thank you very much.